One of the improvements that the Raspberry Pi OS version 12, also known as Bookworm and released in October 2023, were changes to the management of wireless networking. Managing Wi-Fi connection settings until then was quite tedious, especially in headless mode without monitor and keyboard attached. It required manual editing of system configuration files, which was very mistake prone. If you have seen online tutorials explaining how to manage Raspberry Pi networking through editing WPS applicant conf file, you will be happy to know that this approach is no longer used with the new Raspberry Pi OS version. The primary Wi-Fi connection is established during the setup using the Raspberry Pi Imager software. Choose your device version first. The Imager will give you compatible operating system choices. It appears that currently Raspberry Pi 5 is limited to the latest version of the Raspberry Pi OS, codenamed Bookworm, so if you have that Pi version, then this tutorial is exactly right for you. Older Pi devices have more operating system choices at this point in time, including the legacy Bullseye version. Make a careful selection for the latest Bookworm OS version. If you are planning to install the legacy Bullseye version, I have a different networking primer tutorial for that, linked in the video description. If you want Wi-Fi working from first boot, make sure to select the Configure Wireless LAN checkbox and provide your Wi-Fi SSID and password. Current version of the Imager appears to support standard WPA networks, which is what most people have in their homes. Advanced network configurations can be added after the system is up and running. Don't forget to set the country code correctly, otherwise your Wi-Fi connection will likely not work, even with a correct SSID and password. I am in Canada, so my country code is CA. The Services tab currently has settings for remote access. SSH access is necessary if you are installing the system for headless use, and I will select that for my specific situation, secured by standard username and password login. Your Pi should connect to your Wi-Fi network at boot time when configured correctly during setup. If you have the desktop version of the operating system, it is easy to verify the connection status by looking in the upper right corner of the screen at the networking icon. Assuming the initial setup was done correctly and the Pi made the connection, network status will be shown when you hover your mouse pointer over the icon. If you see red X characters in the icon, something went wrong during setup. Additional network info and settings are accessible by left-clicking the networking icon. You can use the menus to reconfigure a connection that is broken or connect to a new network that is in range. For example, I will provide password to another Wi-Fi network in range. The Pi will connect to it right away. Or you can go to Advanced Options and edit existing connections. You can double-click the connection you want to change or use the gear icon. Unwanted connections can be deleted here and so on. This configuration process is very similar to what you are probably used to with your regular PC. If you have a headless system without a graphical interface, you need to rely on terminal commands for network management post-installation. Unfortunately, should something go wrong during the initial setup, you will need to reinstall the operating system using the Imager, as you cannot fix a system that you cannot connect to, unless you have a keyboard and monitor, that is. A clear sign that the initial setup failed is when you cannot connect to your Pi from your PC, but I would wait a couple of minutes before trying for the first time, as the first boot may take up to 5 minutes. Ideally, whenever making changes to Pi's Wi-Fi configuration when connected remotely, you should connect your Pi to the network using a wired connection. This way, should you make a mistake, you will not get cut off from your Pi. Your PC, from where you connect to your Pi, does not need to be wired. Your PC will see the Pi as long as they connect to the same network otherwise known as subnet. Wired connection does not need configuration in most cases. You plug the Ethernet cable in and you are online. Of course, not all Raspberry Pi models offer wired Ethernet, so you may not have a choice but use Wi Fi. Just be careful. A headless Raspberry Pi OS version 12 or later offers shell commands to display status and manage network connections. All users can view network status, but any changes may require administrative access through sudo keyword when connected remotely. Experienced users may prefer plain text NMCLI command, Network Manager command line interface. By all means, feel free to read the manual and learn to use this tool if you like, but I recommend that beginners use a friendlier version. NMTUI, Network Manager Text User Interface, which in essence is just like the graphical tool you saw me use a few moments ago. This program is menu-driven, where you navigate menus using the keyboard arrows, escape, tab, space, and enter keys. You may want to practice the navigation a bit if this is the first time you see such interface. The main menu has currently 3 mostly self-explanatory options. If the Wi-Fi network you want to connect to is in range, the easiest way to add a connection is through Activate Connection menu option. This will work well for standard WPA networks, which you may have at home, public library, etc. Navigate to the appropriate list entry and press Enter. Provide password, and you are good to go. Keep in mind that your Pi will immediately attempt to connect to this new wireless network. If you make a mistake here, you may end up cut off, at least temporarily, if you do not have a wired connection backup as I do. My system has 2 active connections listed, indicated by an asterisk by their name: wired Ethernet and the Wi-Fi connection I just added a few moments ago. When adding networks currently not in range, as well for advanced setups, you want to use the Edit a Connection menu option, which also allows adding new connections which will not be activated immediately. Let's add another Wi-Fi connection. I will add a connection for my Windows mobile hotspot here now. This way I can take my Pi on the road and I will be able to connect and work with my Pi headlessly even without access to the internet. I press Tab to go to the right pane and press Enter to select Add. A simple network needs only SSID, security mode, and password. Checkboxes are activated using the spacebar. I will leave this new connection as automatic, but manual settings for a static IP are an option if desired. Note that Automatically Connect option is selected by default, but this does not mean right now, but rather later on, including when network is restarted or Pi is rebooted. Now my Pi has 3 Wi-Fi connections configured. I can activate a specific connection from the menu later on as needed. It may be worth mentioning that NMTUI program relies on Network Manager service to scan for available networks, which happens only every couple of minutes. Consequently, you may only see a cached list of networks in range without the new network, despite clearly being in range as it is the case with my hotspot now. You may be able to force a refresh by going back to the main menu and returning to the activated connection screen. You could also restart the NMTUI program to force the refresh, but I noticed that deactivating a connection may also refresh the list. In any case, waiting a few minutes seems the key with current software version. Let me activate my hotspot connection. Looking at the hotspot status page, my Pi connected successfully, which confirms that I completed the hotspot Wi-Fi connection setup correctly. Although my hotspot is active and the Pi is connected to it, my PC is still connected to the Pi using the wired connection. This connection will be dropped when I physically unplug the networking cable from the Pi. The same would happen if I was using Wi-Fi to connect to the Pi and broke that connection. An immediate attempt at reconnection will fail, as my PC is caching the Raspberry Pi local IP association. The cache information can be cleared manually, or you can reboot your PC, but you can connect immediately using the IP address shown on the Hotspot configuration page. Of course, your IP will be different than mine. That's it for this video. I hope you found it informative. Thanks for watching.